Let's just make sure that's the same thing here when we create a game. Begin playing state, and then begin playing. So the idea with the training level is that the training level will be a large level, and I could go take a look at what Adam actually has right now for training. Like we just have, this is the training level right now. Has he got a training template or? He's just 200 template. That's what he's got. All right. Never calls it what it actually is. Names, why? Yeah, and this is real small compared to what we're gonna need to. He's just setting up some stuff. What is this? Spark pickup. You know, these rocks are not set up right. Because you can kind of run over them, and no, that's not going to work. No, all this looks very much work in progress. Yeah, see, this rock is totally not set up right. I'm already stuck inside of it. Yeah, basically we need a large area in which we can have several different challenges, and that way people can get familiar with the map that they're working on. We can also have more and more difficult things for the player to accomplish and kind of unlock stuff. So if we had a nice generic area which actually had like several kind of mini biomes within a larger map, you load up the practice area and then you can kind of reset these challenges in order to try to do them. And since you get familiar with the map, we can, you know, make a single map which looks pretty and has a lot of character to it, and then we can just, you know, start a challenge where it's like, okay, you need to go collect these things in order, or you need to go run through these gates, or you need to, you know, do that sort of stuff within certain time limits and different modes, and make things more difficult or less difficult. So like if there's some of these rock ledges, maybe some of the more advanced parts of the game mode, remove some of them, so you don't have to remake the entire level to, you know, make a new challenge. It's just like, okay, cool, so half of these are gone. And you're like, ah, shit. If half of those things are gone, then it's a much more difficult thing to get up there. And that way we can teach players a lot of different things. They don't have to always solve the puzzles in the way that we want them to solve them. And there's a lot more stuff we can unlock. Thank you, Nas1998, for following. But the level's going to be a lot bigger than this, that's for sure. And I think he's just getting the assets kind of in order. So we'll see how all that shakes out. Okay, so supposedly we have the game mode voting stuff ready to go. Let me think. Yeah, so there's a lot there with the practice level, and a lot of that kind of came out of we had never actually designed the practice arenas, and kind of how the game design stuff kind of goes as Adam's much more like build something because I feel like a certain way, and we just add more stuff to it. And when we sit down and actually do a real meeting on some of it, sometimes we come up with better ideas, or sometimes we come up with, well, this needs to be organized and connected, and you can't just feel what should work for a level because it needs to be more complicated than that. So that's why it's not really what we expected. Alright, so I guess we have our events here for our voting. So we need to implement the actual vote. I need a tick function. Come on, where the fuck is the tick function? Alright, so we need to check. We need a function here which will fix all the cast votes which need to be fixed if like a player leaves the match. We need to make sure that votes don't still get counted. And there's also some stuff there, the reason why we expanded the test levels, the test level and the training stuff to be a larger task. A lot of it has to do with, we've been in this mode where we've been just trying to get the levels out the door and get the game shipped. And we really need to take a step back from that and start doing, more high quality features, because one good way to make a big mess of crap is just to keep working on something that you just to keep building more. So it's like, okay, we have 12 levels, and be like, oh great, well they're all the same game and there's nothing to do, so that's not very fun. But it was also like Adam wants to have maps where there's stuff that's hidden and there's a lot of fun things to go find, and a multiplayer map does not lend itself to that. At least not when it's supposed to be a competitive game, such as this one with sports. So, and then having something for people to do offline. There's only so much you can do with the same small map. So try to step back, do less, but do it higher quality, I think is a lot of the reasoning behind it, which I think is going to be pretty important. Yeah, it's also stuff that we can do, because another thing we want is we want to have some pretty much impossible challenges to keep people occupied. If you have to run through an obstacle course and be absolutely precise with your jumps, such as even more precise than otherwise, such as you have to run and jump, but the speed at which you jump, you're going to run into a wall that's going to kill you. You literally have to do like a down stomp at exactly the right time to kill your momentum and go straight down. Things like that we can do in kind of a big arena. And we can have multiple levels of the same challenge where it'd be like, okay, well, you don't have to perfectly nail this thing. You can kind of jump off the side and take another few seconds and run under, and it doesn't just mean you can't make any of the challenges. So we can have a lot of different difficulties, and people can unlock them, and it'll go into the progression later. Where the fuck is the list of player controllers? I mean, we'll see with the whole, like, what's a mini game of what much later. But, like, basically, if the end result of this whole thing is that, you know, there's not really that many sales in the game, you know, if the game is not successful, there will not be a single player game. I would expect a single player movie, you know, a something that is really not a game, but probably uses Unreal for all the cinematics and everything. And it is more of just a cinematic thing for story. So regardless, unless the game is very successful, the single player will be smaller than the multiplayer. Alright, so player controller. So bots can't vote. Alright, so that'll collect all of those, and then we can go through things and remove them from the list. Okay, so if, so what does the vote have on it? It's got the voter ID. Is there a remove ant? Let's see. Yeah, I guess it's remove ant. So that'll remove votes. Okay, so if we cast our vote, we're going to go through all the votes and the current votes, and so if vote dot voter ID equals voter ID, then vote dot config ID equals option return. Otherwise, we need a vote added. Cast vote should only be called on the let's throw a warn in here. Okay, so that'll have us unwrap the votes change and everything. Let's implement these functions. Well, basically the game has to make enough money that it can be self-sustaining, and there's also going to be a thing there, Scorp, where at some point it's a horrible decision for me to stay on the project as like a human being, because, you know, like, I'm not getting paid anything, right, unless we actually make money and do more than break even. And at some point, it's just going to be like, all right, go get a job, because, you know, while Adam is not truly full-time on the project, he has other things like Bob's Burgers and stuff like that. I'm kind of the value for me for the project in terms of money is very different, I think, than it is with Adam, right? Like I think, regardless of how the project goes, Adam would continue working on the project and do it because it's his. He owns the intellectual property. It's his the thing he's always wanted to make. But at some point for me, it's like, I got to think about my future. And, it's not the game is not my baby. It's Adam's. So, my goals in life are not to, basically become an impoverished, person scraping the bottom of the ramen bowl for somebody else's dream project, right? That's kind of a silly thing to put yourself through and to aspire to. So at some point, the big change in the project is going to be if there's enough success to keep me on as any sort of in any sort of professional capacity. Because at some point, it's like, all right, it's not like I'm super rich and have nothing, right? So, yeah, in terms of successful, it's going to be like we actually break even each month with money for everything. And there's a big enough audience that a single-player game would be like a good idea for us to make and all that. Because to be honest, it's like at some point, I got to eat and, as an engineer, I can go work at a lot of different places. Like, if I wanted to go into high-frequency trading and stuff like that, I'd be making, upwards of $300,000 to $400,000 a year, like minimum, pretty much. So, I'm basically giving up $500,000 every year I work on this project, and that doesn't include things like, total compensation for stocks and everything. So it's a pretty bad fucking call for me to even be working on this project at all. So there's a point there where it's like, I could go and do some stuff like that and make a lot of money and then come back and hire people and stuff like that, right? Sales do drop off over time, but it depends, right? Like, there's a lot you can do to keep things rolling along, especially in a multiplayer game where you can actually release new content and updates. Especially if they're brand new things. Alright, so we need to actually shove this UI event out the door. Game mode votes changed, and I need to give it a const f game mode's votes. So that's going to be the voting options there, and this will be votes changed, which is going to be is that a vote? I thought it was a game mode votes, and the votes has votes.votes. Alright, so that'll broadcast this stuff to the UI, I believe. Game mode vote changed. Whoops, okay, yeah. So I need game mode votes changed, which should take votes. Okay, I think we do have this. Yeah, okay. Any options there? New colors for hooves? No, that's not going to bring new players. The stuff that'll bring new players will be new maps, game modes, and like the new colors for hooves is just going to keep more players around probably. Like you don't buy a game for the hooves. You stick around for more colors. You usually buy the games because of like your friend told you to buy it, or there's a new thing that's intriguing, or somebody you followed has it. Voting options. Alright, I think this will do it, so why don't we just compile that out and see if it's working. Well, I would buy a game not because of the hooves. I'd buy it because there's like some sort of player progression or something, and that would keep me around for a while. Like having things like progression would make me want to spend more money on a game to start with, but it wouldn't make me want to play the game to begin with. The reason to play the game to begin with would be, oh, there's this arcade soccer mode and I can beat people up and it's multiplayer and that sounds really fun. Or like my brother has the game or my friend has the game and they want me to play with them. And then I would stick around longer, like after just playing a few matches with friends, because I'd be like, I really want to unlock that cool looking thing that I saw. So when I say stick around, I think that's more what I'm talking about. Can I convert one from voting options to game mode votes? Alright, I think that's what I needed. Get weekly tournaments with giveaways and stuff. Yeah, it's one of the things also that we can't really do is if we did like a weekly tournament thing, say goodbye to all of Adam's productivity, right? Like he'd be taking at least an entire day out of his 1 to 2 to 3 day work time. So we'd be losing like half of all Adam's productivity pretty much. So that would be unfun. So it's kind of the thing is like right now we kind of have to just sit tight and make the game, and later it's going to turn into more promotional stuff because we just can't do both. We'd have to have some more people on the team, but we can't really get more people on the team because people cost money. Okay, so voting options, votes changed, cast vote. So everything should work for casting our votes and getting all that information. Alright, so if you have voting options, Alright, we're going to need, like, voting is open, so we're going to have a blueprint callable, start voting, and then end voting. With, I think, the game mode option that we picked. And we'll need another event here, which will be start voting and end voting. So that'll be options. I think it's the game mode configuration for the picked option. Just a lot of work to do. It's an incentive which can be game sales, think of it as investment. Yeah, it's true. But we already have t-shirts, and we already wear them out in public. Yeah, the only things that I've found that actually get attention in the real world are things like Mass Effect usually gets some attention. People recognize the arm shoulder band really well. Things like that. But as far as Bitey at Brackenwood, it's surprising. Just it's a lot more niche than you might expect. At least that's been my experience with it. So maybe the other thing, of course, is that the main game audience for games is in the United States, and all that. So it may be that there's a larger demographic for people worldwide for Brackenwood, and not as large a one in the United States. Because I think a lot of the fans are in Australia and stuff like that, which kind of makes sense. Alright, so if we start the voting, what we're going to want to do is reset the current votes. And we're going to want to reset the voting options. And I think I should have a client game mode voting started RPC call maybe? Yeah, that's kind of the other thing is Adam has a whole bunch of people who follow him on social media and like on Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that, and what really sucks is he'll post something to Facebook or whatever and you have to actually pay for that advertising to go out. It's real shitty where you may have followed him on his page, but Facebook literally will not send the post to all the followers that there's like a big event coming up or something. You have to pay as somebody who owns the page to reach the people who specifically have followed you. So it's like at all levels, it's literally just marketing dollars. It really sucks. Yeah. Well, that's the thing is the Facebook stuff is actually pretty effective at reaching people. Like there's a pretty high engagement rate, but you have to shell out money. Yeah, it does not share anything anymore. It's true. If you shell out money, it's effective, but otherwise it's not. Which is not fun at all for anybody. Alright, so I think I need to go to the gameplay utils. And we need this get next game modes. Alright, so the level actor is going to exist on every machine. We're going to need an RPC call here for multicast. Alright, so this will be multicast voting open, and we're going to want to pass the voting options. And multicast is called, they're called from the server, executed on the server as well as all currently connected clients. Yeah, and that's definitely another thing that is difficult for us because there's only two of us to do like all the things. So, like, for instance, if we are going to release an update or something like that, you know, who's going to write the marketing emails and who's going to send them and all that stuff, versus if we need to, like, get tasks done for the actual update, right? Like, we'd have to stop working on the actual content of the update and start working on, you know, doing marketing and stuff like that, which can take quite a while. Yeah, I don't know, Scorp, if we kept on the hype train, we literally would get nothing done. So, there is no victory on both of these at the moment. get next game modes, then we'll do multicast voting open with our voting options. Voting options equals options. Voting closed. So this will be voting options, and the voting options did change, so I guess we should cast that event out there. Or maybe we should just do game mode voting started. Probably just voting started. Maybe we should just call in voting and not have a picked option, just say in voting. That's probably the best way to do it. Alright, let's regenerate this, make sure we got it, because I need some more events working. Yeah, we don't have a community manager, so that's something we'll probably have to change. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know all of Adam's relationships and everything like that, but I know Adam and I have talked about having somebody do some community manager work. But after talking to him, I was like, well, that's not really a community manager. You know, like, kind of gotta. You know, if we're gonna do an event, that person needs to be there, and that person needs to be able to access the codes and needs to have authority and, you know, mod in the forums and mod over here, and, you know, we have to be able to rely on them 100% to do something, you know, like, and that's not kind of the relationship that was there. So I was like, well, that's not really a community manager, that's just a community helper. So I can't really tell you exactly what's going on with that. But I can say that that's not what I would have in mind for a community manager. Because the community managers I've worked for in the past I've worked with in the past. You know, they'd be on the ball, they'd be involved in everything, they'd be harassing people all the time for, like, I want the patch notes, and the community wants this bug fixed, you better damn well get it in the next update. kind of the advocate for the people sort of thing. And also pretty big on social media. Usually you hire a community manager not just for their skills at managing a community, but for their community themselves. What are these getting all pissed about? Let's see, link, all these things are already defined. Oh, okay, so we need the implementation of these. That's what they need to be called. Hello, Adam. People were asking about community manager and what that means, and I was basically saying I really have no clue at the moment what the relationships are for community management, but that it was something that we needed to probably work on at some point in the future. Since Scorp was bringing up a lot of stuff about, we should be holding events and stuff all the time, and I'm like, well, if we did a weekly tournament thing, then, rest in peace one day out of Adam's week, which is basically half of your productivity. So it's like, you gotta decide between, which things have to give, because you can't really just expect people to work 24/7. It's not sustainable. Okay, so when voting is open, we'll need to cast the event for voting being available after setting the voting options. So this is going to be Dashkin UI events. Let's see, what is it? Game mode voting started, and we'll pass in the voting options. Do we also need to pass in the voting? I guess we should just, I want to change this multicast to also take the current array of votes. Yeah, we should probably take the current votes. Nobody told you? Yeah. Alright, so we'll get those votes. And then the next thing we'll do is this guy just needs to do game vote voting ended with the game mode configuration that was picked. So it's going to be like this. I need to regenerate some of this code because I changed the event. Yeah, how's the Bob's work doing? I'm assuming you're close to the end of your day here, and hopefully you've gotten all the awesome stuff done. Options and options. Yeah, I need to call that something else. It should be called votes. Just hit. Yeah, that's why I thought. I was like, it seems like you're probably at midnight at the moment. T-array of game mode votes. I don't think that was quite the right thing, was it? Alright. Were you making the bullet time Bob's Burgers episode? So that's actually going to send the entire configuration. Well, it's not the worst thing in the world. Yeah, it's probably better just to send the whole thing.